Have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand where ancient Magyar tribes first established their stronghold over 1,000 years ago? Hungary holds secrets that most travelers never uncover. 7 towers at Fisherman's Bastion tell the story of those original tribes, while thermal waters that have bubbled up since Roman times still warm visitors today. From the highest points in Budapest offering views of grand parliament buildings to underground caves filled with eternal ice, this country bridges worlds both ancient and modern. I'll show you places where history lives and breathes. Hungary is a country full of surprises, starting with the fact that its citizens refuse to clink beer glasses. In 1849, Austrian officers toasted the execution of 13 Hungarian generals, and Hungarians vowed never to clink again in protest. That stubborn national pride perhaps explains why this small country has produced 15 Nobel Prize winners. More than China, India, Australia. Hungarians also gave the world the Rubik's Cube, the ballpoint pen, and the Volkswagen Beetle, and founded both Paramount Pictures and Fox Film Corporation. Being landlocked hasn't stopped them from dominating water polo either, with 9 Olympic gold medals, more than any other nation. On dry land, the Hungarian golden team of the 1950s went undefeated for 32 games, yet somehow still lost the 1954 World Cup final. You also cannot name your child in Hungary without government approval. Major buildings in Budapest must stand at exactly 96 meters tall, and the national anthem lasts precisely 96 seconds, both in reverence to the founding year of 896. Every August 20th, the mummified right hand of Hungary's first king is paraded through the streets of Budapest and returned to its golden reliquary. Hungary once also printed banknotes worth 1 quintillion pengos, the highest denomination currency ever issued anywhere in the world. Now let's explore the places that make Hungary unforgettable. Have you ever stood inside a fairy tale and discovered it was barely a century old? Fisherman's Bastion rises above the Danube like something plucked from medieval legend. 7 white turrets, intricate stone arches, ramparts that seem to whisper of knights and sieges. But here's the thing. It was finished in 1902. Not the Middle Ages. The turn of the 20th century. Those 7 towers? Each one represents a Magyar tribe that founded Hungary over 1,000 years ago, but the limestone beneath your fingers is younger than your great-grandmother's china. Walk the terrace at golden hour and warm light pours across that creamy stone, turning everything amber. Across the river, Parliament stretches along the water like a Gothic crown laid on its side. The fishermen who once defended these walls are long gone, but their name lingers here, carved into every sunlit arch. In 1051, a bishop named Gellért was stuffed into a barrel and hurled off this cliff by pagan rebels. His body drifted down the Danube, and somehow that's how you become a saint. The hill still carries his name, 200 million years of dolomite rock rising 235 meters above the river where he met his end. You climb through dense green canopy, calves burning on the switchback paths, until the city cracks open beneath you. The Danube carves its silver line between Buda and Pest. Parliament glows gold along the far bank, and atop the summit the Liberty statue stretches her palm leaf toward a sky turning copper at sunset. Behind her sits the citadel, a Habsburg fortress built not to protect the city but to intimidate it after the 1848 revolution. The views forgive everything. The history forgives nothing. Did you know there's a place in Europe where you can stand and see nothing but grass in every direction for 800 square kilometers? Hortobagy is the largest continuous grassland on the continent. A sea of green that exists because an actual sea once covered this land. The ancient Pannonian waters receded millions of years ago, leaving behind this impossibly flat expanse. And it's alive. Over 340 species of birds call this place home, wheeling above herds tended by Sikos, Hungarian horsemen who still practice grazing traditions stretching back to the Neolithic period. You walk out at sunrise and golden light floods the puszta, catching the silhouette of the nine-arch bridge rising from the plain like something from a dream. Wind moves through the tall grass in waves. No mountains. No trees. Hungary's tallest building isn't a skyscraper. It's a church. The Esztergom Basilica rises 100 meters above the Danube, its dome so massive it dominates the skyline from kilometers away. But here's what caught me off guard. Step inside when morning sun pours through the windows, and the altar literally blinds you. Every surface covered in gold leaf, catching light and throwing it back until the whole sanctuary glows like something molten. This isn't just Hungary's largest church. It's the spiritual heart of the entire nation, the mother church of Hungarian Catholicism, and in 1848, these walls witnessed the country's very first parliament, a defiant act of independence. You climb the narrow stairs to the terrace and suddenly the Danube curves below you, Slovakia stretches across the far bank, and the dome looms overhead like a second sky. Warm stone under your fingertips, river wind in your hair. Did you know Hungary's highest peak barely cracks 1,000 meters? Tokaj rises just 1,014 meters above sea level, shorter than most ski hills in the Alps. And yet, standing on that summit, you feel like you're on top of the world. The Matra Mountains stretch out beneath you in every direction, blanketed in forests that shift from emerald in spring to blazing copper by October. These slopes formed 20 million years ago, and locals will tell you they're haunted. Old folklore speaks of witches gathering in the mist, spirits drifting between ancient oaks. After a rainstorm, the air turns thick with pine and damp earth, so rich you can almost taste it. Medieval miners once pulled iron and copper from these valleys, fueling an empire. Now the trails belong to hikers and skiers. Morning fog rolls through the canopy, and for a moment, those old legends feel entirely possible. Did you know Hungary has its own sea? That's what locals call Lake Balaton. And when you stand on its southern shore, squinting at a waterline that vanishes into haze 77 kilometers away, you understand why. This is Central Europe's largest lake, so massive it generates its own microclimate. Warm winds sweep across water that shimmers turquoise under the summer sun, creating conditions mild enough to sustain vineyards on the surrounding hillsides. The lake carved itself into existence roughly 20,000 years ago during the last ice age, and humans have gathered along its shores since the Stone Age. By the 19th century, Austro-Hungarian aristocrats claimed it as their summer playground. Today, you walk the same promenades they did, past lavender-covered hillsides and volcanic slopes draped in grapevines. At sunset, the entire surface catches fire. Gold bleeding into rose, stretching endlessly toward a horizon you'll never quite reach. Beneath Budapest lies the largest thermal cave system on the planet, a labyrinth of warm underground rivers carving through limestone for millions of years. And that hidden world shapes everything above it. Steam curls off open-air baths at dawn, the water mineral-rich and almost impossibly warm against the cool morning air. But here's what makes this city unlike any other capital in Europe. It's actually two cities stitched together by bridges. Cross the Danube and the world changes completely. Buda rises in ancient hills, quiet cobblestone lanes winding past medieval walls. Pest sprawls flat and electric, tram bells clanging, the warm bite of paprika drifting through market halls. 1,000 years of history split across one river. And at sunset, when golden light floods the Parliament spires and the chain bridge glows against the water, those two halves feel like one. Have you ever stood somewhere and heard your own voice thrown back at you 10 times louder? On the Tihany Peninsula, jutting into Lake Balaton, a volcanic rock formation does exactly that, amplifying sound in ways that have baffled visitors for centuries. Locals call it the Tihany Echo. The peninsula itself rose from volcanic fury around 200,000 years ago, and those ancient craters still scar the landscape. But walk past the geology and you'll find lavender fields stretching in every direction, their purple haze so vivid it almost hurts, the air thick with sweetness. Above it all sits Tihany Abbey, founded in 1055, one of Hungary's oldest surviving monuments. At sunset, golden light spills across the water, and the whole peninsula glows like something from a half-remembered dream. Every August, a quiet island in the middle of the Danube transforms into a city of 500,000 people. Sziget Festival sprawls across 108 hectares of Óbuda Island, one of Europe's largest music festivals, born from something nobody expects. It started in 1993 as a protest. Locals gathered to fight the demolition of a bridge, and that defiant spark never died. It just evolved. You cross onto the island and the Danube's calm dissolves into 1,000 performances, artists from over 50 countries and towering art installations glowing against the night sky. The smell of chimney cakes, warm, sweet, dusted with cinnamon, follows you through every crowd. At sunset, golden light spills across the river while bass reverberates through the trees. Chaos and beauty, tangled together on the water. Monks have been making wine on this hilltop for over 1,000 years. Pannonhalma Archabbey, founded in 996 AD, is one of the oldest continuously operating monasteries in all of Europe, and its vineyards rank among the most ancient still tended by monastic hands anywhere in the world. You climb the hill and the air shifts. Lavender from the monastery gardens mingles with something deeper, earthy, oaked, centuries old. 200 acres of abbey complex sprawl across the summit, Baroque facades catching golden light as the sun drops low. Inside the church, frescoes glow above an intricate altar where Benedictine prayers have echoed since King Stephen I invited these monks to help Christianize Hungary. Have you ever walked into a castle and found over 100 horse-drawn carriages waiting inside? Keszthely Castle holds the world's largest collection of historical carriages. Gilded coaches, hunting wagons, sleighs built for aristocrats who ruled these lands for centuries. The pale yellow walls rise across 8,000 square meters, framed by gardens so deeply green they almost glow against the Baroque facade. You climb the grand staircase, and everywhere there's evidence of Count György aesthetics, the man born here who went on to found Hungary's National Museum and reshape education across the country. Construction stretched from 1745 to 1790, each decade adding another layer of ambition. Come at golden hour, when warm light softens every carved detail along the entrance. That's when this place truly breathes. Did you know there's a lake you can swim in during a Hungarian winter? Outdoors, without a wetsuit. Havíz holds the world's largest thermal bathing lake, and its waters never drop below 24 degrees, even when snow blankets the shore. Picture this. You wade in on a January morning, steam curling thick off the surface, pine-scented air sharp in your lungs. The lake stretches across nearly 11 acres, fed by a volcanic spring that has been pushing warm, mineral-rich water upward for over 2,000 years. Romans bathed here long before anyone coined the word spa. Around you, the earthy smell of sulfur mingles with forest. Wooden bathhouse towers emerge through the haze like something from another century. Imagine stumbling across what looks like frozen waterfalls in the middle of the Hungarian countryside. No ice, no winter, just chalk-white limestone cascading down hillsides, formed over thousands of years as mineral-rich waters slowly deposited calcium carbonate layer by layer. Welcome to the Keszthely Basin, home to Hungary's largest concentration of these tufa formations, some dating back to the Pleistocene. You walk between them, and the contrast hits you. Brilliant white against deep green foliage, almost too vivid to feel real. But here's what makes this place truly special. The volcanic soil beneath your feet also nourishes some of Hungary's most distinctive vineyards. Thatched roof villages dot the surrounding hills, unchanged for generations. At sunset, golden light catches the tufa and the whole basin glows warm, ancient, impossibly still. Did you know that one of Hungary's oldest castles never actually fell to the Ottomans? Szigligét's 13th century fortress held firm while strongholds across the country crumbled, its defenders refusing to surrender through decades of siege. Today, you climb the same stone paths those soldiers once patrolled, but the battle is long over. Instead of armies, you find vineyards cascading down the hillside, their earthy perfume mixing with cool air drifting off the lake below. At the top, the ruins open up to what might be the finest panorama in the region. Sailboats drift across glassy water. Rows of grapevines trace green lines toward the shore. Then sunset arrives and everything shifts. The old stones glow amber, the lake turns molten orange, and Szigligét feels suspended somewhere between centuries. Did you know there's a wine so legendary that Louis XIV of France called it the wine of kings? Welcome to Tokaj, the world's first officially classified wine region, where grapes have ripened for over 2,500 years. But here's the real twist. The secret ingredient is a fungus. Botrytis cinerea, or noble rot, clings to the grapes in autumn, shriveling them into concentrated jewels of sweetness. It only thrives here, where volcanic soil meets the misty confluence of the Bodrog and Tisza rivers. You raise a glass of Tokaj to the light, and it glows. Liquid gold, honeyed and electric on the tongue. Baroque rooftops rise beyond the vineyard rows, and as the sun dips low, every vine seems to burn amber against the darkening hills. They call it the Calvinist Rome. Sounds severe, right? But here's the thing. Debrecen might be Hungary's most quietly rebellious city. Inside the Great Reformed Church, the largest in the country, Hungarian leaders declared independence from the Habsburgs in 1849. Same defiant spirit still pulses through the streets. You walk out of the church and its golden yellow facade towers behind you. Then 2 blocks later, you're in a basement gallery where local artists are projecting light installations onto concrete walls. The contrast is intoxicating. Founded in the 13th century, Hungary's second-largest city built one of Europe's first Calvinist universities in 1538. And today its students flood the cafe-lined squares every evening, filling the warm air with laughter and clinking glasses long after dark. A sea of gold stretches to the horizon. But this isn't a wheat field. It's water. Over 10,000 hectares of reeds rise from a shallow lake carved by glaciers 12,000 years ago, forming the largest continuous reed bed in Central Europe. You stand at the edge and the sound hits you first. A soft, endless rustling, like the landscape is breathing. Then the birds. Over 300 species call Ferto-Hansag home, including the elusive Eurasian bittern, whose booming call echoes across the marshes at dusk. Fishermen still work from weathered wooden huts along the shoreline, harvesting reeds the way their families have for generations. Did you know Hungary's largest lake isn't actually a lake at all? Lake Tisza didn't exist before the 1970s. Engineers dammed the Tisza River for flood control, and something extraordinary happened. Nature moved in. Fast. Within decades, 127 square kilometers of shallow water transformed into one of Central Europe's richest wetlands, home to over 200 bird species. Glide through narrow channels carved between towering reed beds. The only sound's a paddle dipping and the sudden wing beat of a heron lifting off ahead. The water shimmers turquoise at dawn, so vivid it looks tropical rather than Hungarian. Europe's second longest river flows for nearly 1,800 miles across the continent. And right here, tectonic plates colliding over millions of years forced it into a sharp 90-degree turn. This is the Danube Bend, one of the few places where you can literally see continental drift written into the landscape. As morning mist lifts from the water, the river reveals itself in shifting turquoise, cutting between forested hills that glow emerald in the early light. Above it all, the ruins of a medieval citadel cling to the cliffs at Visegrád, watching over a route that Roman legions once patrolled. Below, the Baroque rooftops of Szentendre scatter color along the riverbank like spilled paint. The river bends. History accumulates. And the view from those cliffs, it just never gets old. Did you know there's a town where someone sculpted the entire Hungarian parliament building out of marzipan? Life-sized figures, historical heroes, intricate facades, all crafted from sugar and almonds. That's Szentendre. But this place is far more than one sweet museum. Serbian refugees settled here in the 1600s, weaving Orthodox churches and Balkan traditions into the Hungarian landscape. You feel that blend everywhere. Cobblestone lanes twist between pastel Baroque facades. Peach, terracotta, faded yellow. Each one housing a gallery, a studio, a workshop. The town practically exhales art. Wander the main square and the scent of marzipan drifts from open doorways, mixing with turpentine and river air. In late afternoon, golden light pours down the narrow streets and catches the Danube below. Sweet in every sense. Imagine soaking in warm, mineral-rich water. Not in a pool, not in a hot spring, but deep inside a cave. Miskolc sits on top of the world's largest thermal cave system, stretching over 1,000 meters beneath the city. You descend underground, and the air changes. Earthy. Warm. Heavy with minerals. Steam drifts through vaulted stone chambers where people have come to heal since the 1700s. Above ground, this was iron country. Furnaces fed by the Bukk Mountains for centuries. Below, something gentler. Water drips from limestone walls, catching the faintest light. Did you know there's a Catholic church in Hungary where you can still look up and see the original Islamic dome? Pécs holds that contradiction in its bones. The Mosque of Pasha Qasim, built in 1543 during Ottoman rule, was never torn down. Just converted. A cross sits atop a crescent. Walk inside, and Christian frescoes share walls with Arabic calligraphy. Outside, turquoise Zolnay ceramic tiles catch the afternoon light, glinting from rooftops and fountains across the city. Beneath your feet, early Christian tombs stretch back nearly 2,000 years. Imagine a city where nearly every street corner reveals another fantastical facade. Swirling floral motifs, peacock blue tiles catching the morning sun, walls that seem to ripple like living things. Keszthely holds one of the world's densest concentrations of Art Nouveau architecture, and most travelers have never heard of it. You walk the main square and the city hall alone stops you cold. Every inch ornamented, every curve deliberate. Founded in 1368, this was once a hotbed of the Hungarian Reformation. But today, it's those rooftops that hold you. Cobalt blue against golden stone, glowing in the early light. Did you know there's a 12-meter bronze bird perched on a hilltop just outside Tatabánya? The turul, Hungary's mythical bird of prey, spreads its wings over a town that spent decades buried in coal dust. This was mining country, gritty and industrial. Now pine forests reclaim the hillsides, and green parks grow where shafts once plunged into the earth. Climb Tokaj at sunset, and the whole story unfolds beneath you. Old mine remnants threading through woodland, the air carrying that strange mix of earth and fresh resin. The turul watches it all. Beneath the quiet streets of Zalaegerszeg, something extraordinary hides. Thermal water surging up from 1,300 meters underground. That's deeper than most mountains are tall. You catch it the moment you approach the baths, that unmistakable mineral earthiness hanging in the air, rich and ancient. Steam curls off the surface as the sun dips low, turning the water into liquid amber. This city has been here since 1232, once a crossroads for medieval traders crossing Europe. Now you slip into water that spent thousands of years filtering through rock. The warmth wraps around you immediately. Geological time felt on your skin. Did you know that Empress Sisi, perhaps the most famous queen in European history, preferred a small Hungarian town over her own palace in Vienna? Godollo held her heart. 17,000 square meters of Baroque grandeur sprawl across manicured gardens where spring air hangs heavy with blooming linden. You wander gilded corridors that saw emperors, then Nazi generals, then decades of neglect, before meticulous restoration brought every chandelier back to life. Ravenstone. That's what Holloko means, named for a castle ruin where ravens once kept watch over these hills. The village below has barely changed since the 13th century. Whitewashed houses with wooden balconies line a single narrow street, and here's what gets me: people still live in them. This isn't a museum you walk through with a ticket. Grandmothers embroider on doorsteps. Artisans carve wood the way their families have for generations. You smell it before you see it. Old timber, thatched roofs, clean mountain air. At golden hour, warm light pools against every weathered beam, and the whole village glows like something time simply forgot. Did you know there are over 1,000 caves hiding beneath a single Hungarian forest? And many haven't even been found yet. Welcome to Bukk National Park, where 43,000 hectares of ancient limestone karst conceal the country's largest underground labyrinth. These formations stretch back 250 million years to the Triassic period. You duck into the Saleta cave and realize Paleolithic humans sheltered here tens of thousands of years ago. From Budapest's thermal baths to remote village churches, Hungary revealed itself as a land where every cobblestone holds centuries of stories. If you want to discover more hidden corners of Europe with me, hit subscribe. Which Hungarian town caught your eye? Tell me in the comments.